Not far from the Limburg Research Center in Wadena, South Tyrol, is a trial plantation where apples are grown as part of the Isotope project. Here, at regular intervals, research scientists take soil samples up to a depth of 40 centimeters. The scientists are interested in all parts of the plant. The same investigations are also carried out in the greenhouse. There, the plants are studied throughout the growth period up to the time of harvest, under protected and controlled conditions. In this way, environmental influences can be excluded.
This morning we were sampling different matrices from the same apple tree, and starting from the soil to the leaves, but in other moments also apples and the trunk. The reason why we were sampling different matrices was to test if the strontium isotope ratio is the same inside the plant.
For this purpose, in the Limburg Research Center's lab, the individual tissue samples are first cleaned and washed. Subsequently, they are dried and dehydrated in the oven. But what exactly are isotopes? An atom consists of negatively charged electrons which orbit the atom's nucleus. The nucleus consists of a certain number of positively charged protons and neutrons.
If we have a carbon atom with 6 protons, we can have 6 neutrons, or, for example, 7 neutrons. In the first case, we have what we call carbon-12, and in the second case, we have carbon-13. These two forms of the same element, carbon, are called isotopes.
In the lab at the Free University of Bolzano, the samples from Limburg are studied to determine their carbon content. For this purpose, the leaf is first ground, then weighed on precision scales, and finally burned at 950 degrees Celsius. During combustion, the carbon dioxide content is measured. The declared aim is to be able to determine the isotope ratio in apple trees accurately and in a scientifically comprehensible manner.
Analyzing the carbon isotope ratio, it is possible to distinguish from which kind of plant sugars are derived. So, for example, it is possible to understand if in fruit juice, for example, some low-cost sugar has been added. So it is possible to identify the frauds in fruit juice, apple juice, for example, but just by analyzing the carbon isotopes. The problem is that carbon isotopes are not related to geographical origin. So if we really want to identify from where a product comes from, we need to use another isotope, another technique. And for this reason, we thought that it was a good idea to add strontium. Strontium is strictly related to the geology of a region.
While the Free University of Bolzano is analyzing the carbon, the scientists in the research lab at Echo Research study the element strontium. To do so, nitric acid is added to the samples from the trial plantation to decompose the organic constituents and extract the metallic elements. In a special process, the strontium is then separated from the other elements. For this purpose, a highly sensitive device is used which can determine the isotope ratio of strontium in the sample.
We do the analysis of the strontium isotope ratio because it presents a kind of fingerprint, of a geological fingerprint that the plants receive from the geological surrounding. The strontium isotope ratio is given by the geology, so it can remain constant for 10 or more kilometers, but according to local geological characteristic, it can also vary within 100 meters.
For instance, these two apples come from one from Limburg and the other one from Sluderno in Alta Val Venosta. The two valleys have different geological features, so the strontium isotope ratio is different in the two apples, even if they look like the same.
The research project is not yet finished, but the people in charge of it at the Echo Research Laboratory, the Limburg Research Center, and the Free University of Bolzano are very confident.
The target of the Isotopic project is to build up a tool that enables to characterize local agroforestry products in order that the consumer can be sure that the product he's buying is from local origin.
So that in future, consumers can be sure that produce labeled South Tyrol really is from there.